Okay, what we're looking at here is the next iteration of the dance controller using the Wii device. In this case, a black Wii. What I've done here in the user interface is I have added a few extra graphical sections. For example, a drop samples area where the user can drop in a folder of their own samples to use within the system, or they can use the preloaded or configured samples that come with the application by simply clicking the load default button. The default samples will load at the beginning of the application automatically. They can be cleared, or the user can drop in any other samples that they would like. Once they've dropped the samples in here, that will populate these drop down menus and give you the ability to change those sounds in real time. I've also added in some more button functionality to the actual controller itself. So, as well as the back button, which is known as the B button on the controller, the A button, okay, the start loop on button 1 and stop loop on button 2. I've also added the home button in. So the home button will allow the gestural information or data coming from the Wii to come into the system and be used accordingly. At the moment you can hear that quite high-pitched sine wave being controlled by the pitch movement, up and down movement of the controller. That really doesn't have much impact, but that's the movement. So on a larger scale that works quite well and naturally scales the data according to the size and speed of the movement that the user is involved in. So there's a start stop button there for that, which is the home button on the remote control on the Wii controller. Additionally to that, I have put a built-in synthesizer in the Max patch itself, so it's not requiring any external applications or external software to make that sound. It's all happening within its own internal oscillators and generators, and I've just given the user 3 possibilities. So if they choose a low frequency, for example, I've restricted the frequencies at which the device responds, so it's all in the low area. Now as you can hear, it's just one simple sound. It's actually a triangular wave oscillator, but I could make any combination of basic waves and then add different types of processing to those waves to get a more realistic synthesizer sound and to give the user some more timbral possibilities when they're selecting the type of sound they'd like to manipulate. I could also manipulate a sample in real time, or a sampled sound in real time, but for the time being I'm just going to go with a simple setup just to demonstrate how the Wii can actually be used to control, in this case, a frequency, the pitch of a note. So how is all that happening? Let's take a quick look under the hood of the application. So this is the graphic user interface that the user sees, and we basically have some routing patches here. This patch here is receiving data from the Wii via OSC, streaming into the Max patch. Over here is where I built the synth, so the data coming in through this particular selection here, which is acceleration data, coming in through the pitch X, Y areas. I've got it connected to the pitch at the front here at the moment. And you can see here you can make your choice as to which of these 3 scaling options, 50 to 250 Hertz, 1000 to 4000 Hertz, 5000 to 10,000 Hertz. Those are just numbers that I've chosen. There's no particular reason for that. They're just in a low, medium and high. That's actually quite high, so it probably has to come down a little bit there. You can see as I move the controller that the frequencies are changing and being scaled accordingly. At the moment they're being scaled between a range of 50 and 250 and then sent as a frequency to the triangular wave down here through this section here and out through this audio input. This control here controls the level of that oscillated sound, and that control is actually mirrored back in the graphic interface. So back over here, the user can control the volume of that sound. So if I start that off and go to something a little bit more piercing, I can actually control that volume in relation to the rest of the system. So quite a few additions from the last iteration of the controller. Basically we have our button control in real time. We have a sample which we can choose from. We can invoke some movement control and use that accordingly. The user can go through and make changes to the sounds that they want to use quite quickly. Pick another sample. As you can see, the Wii fits really well in the hand. It's very tactile, designed to be used that way. And I believe with a wristband on, it will be quite a safe option, and the dancers will be able to move very quickly and in large arcs, which will give them a lot of control over what's happening. So probably just a couple of more controls to take place. An overall volume control, just to control the output, perhaps individual volume controls for the different sections here, which could be mapped to buttons on here, and a tempo control using the plus and minus buttons here. So that will take care of most of the buttons on the controller, and then we have its functionality and its gestural data. So it's coming along quite nicely, and looking forward to creating the standalone application ready for download, and also demonstrating the controller used in a larger space, just to show what the possibilities might be.